Hi guys, we are back. Malachi and I are back for part two. Today is Sunday, January 19th, 2025, the day before the inauguration of President Trump, and I just saw video footage of him taking off in Air Force One heading towards Washington, D.C. So we're living in epic times and we're having epic discussions with each other at the real epicenter of of the universe where Malachi lives. Um, I wanted to discuss more with you today, Malachi, about your childhood, your background. You know, when I ended the recording last time was when we got into the best conversation. So I wanted to transfer some of that information that you revealed to me after we stopped recording last time. I want to try to capture that with you today, recapture that. Um, so, and also I want to talk about, we were all pretty much up the whole night last night dealing with some troll situations on different platforms of social media. And I want to hear how you dealt with that, how you witnessed Rabbeinu YIRAH, how we deal with that. But first, let's start with your childhood. And I have found, hold on one second, I have found another parallel. I have seen that the people surrounding Rabbeinu YIRAH are the most gentle, humble, kind, soft-spoken, loving people, his inner circle. And I have also noticed that they have like some kind of tragedy or like sadness in their childhood of like either being adopted or homeless or foster care or different sadness, different sad origin stories. So I found out after we stopped recording last time that that applies to you also. So if you could start with that life story, I would love that.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean it's a pretty long story, but to sum it up, um, you know, grew up in Central California. Um, got adopted pretty early on, probably second or third grade. And
Do you know why your parents gave you up?
um they had to the state, I believe, basically forced them to because the situation they're in. They kind of weren't together and they're kind of going in and out the system, and just doing a whole bunch of stuff, in the mix and stuff. Um, so yeah, I ended up getting adopted to my grandparents early on, and yeah, there a lot of stuff came out of that.
Those are your mom's parents or your dad's?
My mom's. Well, it's my mom's grandma.
Oh, wow. Your great grandma, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. So they took you in at what age?
probably probably around 8.
Oh, you were a little bit older. Okay.
Yeah, like 7 or 8. Yeah, I
Oh, so you
think
have
that's.
memories. You have memories of that.
Oh, for sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I remember living with my mom when I was way young.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you have a relationship with your mom and dad now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting relationship, it's more of a like friend based, like yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, that's what happens as you get older.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
So you go to live at 8 years old with your great grandma and tell me how your teenage years were and then leading into I really want to get to the heart of what you told me last week was you came to a crucial decision. Um, and if you can lead us a little bit through your teenage years and then through your like apprenticing with your grandfather, tell us that story.
So, okay, so I really don't talk about this often. Um, so most people in my family, I'll say it like this. When me and my brother got older, my mom's friends saw me and my brother, and they were blown back because everyone, for the most part in my family, and especially in the situation that we were in,
Mhm.
they didn't go very far in life. You know, to put it sweet, they definitely got involved with a lot of stuff, and a lot of them died young and got locked up, whatever the case. So, Brooke, Shem, and my brother were the exception on that end. Um, and though it caused a lot of trauma, being like adopted and like stripped from your parents, not being able to see them and stuff at a young age, ultimately it was for the greater good because my mom and dad were not religious at all, but my grandparents were. They were Christians, mind you. They were two different denominations, and so there was a whole interesting interaction there. But nonetheless, they believed in God. You know, to whatever extent they believed in God, and that had a huge impact. You know, because I was coming from a world where there really was no we were just homeless at one time, moving a whole bunch, and just basically just you know, and God brought me and my bro out of that. Um, man, I really try not to think about my past too much, so I'm really trying to remember what all has happened. Um, but fast forward a whole bunch. Um, Fast forward to high school, I guess. Um, Again, I'm in Central California. Um, the place I'm in, the neighborhood I was in wasn't necessarily the worst, but the town itself, like I'll tell you a story. My It's a fairly new town. It has old parts to it. The first time that my mom went down there to check out the house that my grandma just purchased, um, they were riding home about 10 o'clock at night. The only people on the road because there's only one road going through the town. It's pretty newly built. Um, they stop at the red light, and there's dude over here about to cross the street, and there's dude over here about to cross the street. They cross the street and meet each other right in front of my mom's car. I get these people knew each other and had a problem, and dude just starts stabbing him right on my mom's car. They landed on my mom's car. My mom's like, like that's her first impression of the town. Um, anyway, she dips out. A, you know, a lot of stuff happened. Probably more than I should probably get into. But um, but fast forward to high school. Um, the school I went to was actually, and no exaggeration, it was the poorest school in like the entire area. Like like this place looked like a prison. You had to cross a bridge to get to the school. There's one way in and one way out, and the school colors were like gray and dark green. Like it had a courtyard. Like it was absolutely depressing. Um, and unfortunately, because of those circumstances, there was a lot of messed up stuff that happened there. Like my first week of school, people are getting fighting with the cops at school, and just like dudes like dudes didn't even look like they belonged in school. They look like full grown adults. Like for um just a whole bunch of stuff that's not really necessary to get into. But yeah, somehow God willed that I got through that mess. Um and for whatever reason, because my dad was pretty deep in the mix, my mom meddled with the streets and stuff. And so growing up, I was like I was over here with my grandparents, but I was aware of that entire lifestyle. And for whatever reason, I think it's evil inclination or whatever. I was always intrigued by that lifestyle. Um, I don't know what it was. Something about it just intrigued me. And so it wasn't until you know, first year of high school that I was like, all right, well, now's my opportunity. And unfortunately I wasted no time in taking a swim in that pool, and definitely got in the mix quicker than I should have. Um, but fast forward, to a couple years later. It's the summer over. I'm about to be senior, right? And this is essentially the summer that everything changed. Um, because I was hanging out at a spot that we used to always hang out at with some individuals, and I remember sitting there, and I was just reminiscing on life. And I remember coming to the conclusion within myself, like I basically reached everything that I wanted to be. I made a name for myself. I hung out with a certain group of individuals. Um, I was skilled in the craft that I was doing, and it's like I was involved with the stuff that I always wanted to be involved with. I was making money. Like on that timeline, or in that situation, I fulfilled everything I wanted to do, and like I and and then not soon after that, I was presented with a situation where I basically came to the knowledge that God existed. Like mind you, I grew up with my grandparents, like they were religious to whatever extent, but it never really clicked. And I think because they were so religious and both of them were two opposing religions, that it was just like it was kind of a lot. And so it pushed me away from all that. And so that's why I was like, so I wanted to just like separate myself from that because that was a whole mess, and just like be involved with stuff that really interested me, which is like the world of art, and like the world of like rebelling against the like what would be classified as like social norms, and whatnot. Um and so, God basically put me in a situation where he was like, look, you could have all of this. You could have everything that you ever wished of, or you could follow me.
Hmm.
And it was really like it was so interesting because I was like in such a weird position where I was so deep in the mix already, and it was really dangerous. And but Baruch Hashem, um definitely made the right decision. And um but by doing so, there was a lot of consequences to that, and maybe we could talk about some. I think I shared some of them with you last time. Like God's a comedian, you know, and so I didn't know how to deal with the situation, so I kind of went cold turkey and cut everybody off, cut everything off, because I mean, like, how do you even deal with that? Um, I remember one time when it first happened, I told my buddy, we were whipping around one day. It was like probably like five of us in this car, and I told him like, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna stop drinking," you know. And everyone looks back at me and just like they start laughing. They think I'm joking, and I'm like, "Nah, I'm dead serious, bro." He's like, "Nah, you ain't dead serious." And the spot we were at was literally like the liquor store was literally across the street. Like it's like literally across the street. And so he whips down to the liquor store and buys me a 30 ounce. And I'm like, that was just the situation that was at hand. But God willing, I mean, Brooksham pulled through on that end. But no, God's a comedian. So after like I was like getting my feet grounded, you know, I was reading the Bible. I'm going through last year of high school. Um, the neighbors across the street from me actually move out, and I was like, all right, well, we're gonna have new neighbors, cool. The people I used to kick it with, my homies at the time, literally bought the house. Like they didn't do it because they knew that I was across the street. It was just what was available. But they buy the house or rent the house, whatever, and immediately like it it's a problem. You know, cops are coming in and out. They're running through the place. People are being arrested like on a weekly basis, and so it's blowing up. It's blowing up the neighborhood. Um, and not to mention that I walked every day to school and from school for like 4 years. And so on my way from school every single day, they'd be posted up with the garage open, smoking, drinking, doing whatever. And so I would have to pass by this every single day. And every time I did, it's like I hung out with these dudes for years. So you can't just like ignore that. So had to uh had to maneuver on that end. But by doing so, it's weird because at that time I really didn't know my mom all too much. But at that time, she got a job in town, right? And the way her hours were is she was like hey, do you need a ride?
Mm.
Meaning like to be picked up from school. I'm like, oh, sure, I always take a ride. And by doing so, because she wanted to see me, and it's like it became like a bonding thing. Like she took me up from school, and so I got to really know her. And like eventually like she's like giving my friends rides and stuff. And it was a really interesting interaction. But but by doing so, it kind of avoided the whole situation. Um, and it kind of cooled off everything that was going on in that end. But um, yeah, yeah. I mean, after all of that, and mind you, I'm skipping a lot. Um, yeah, there's a whole lot to say.
I love how in hindsight we could see the Yad Hashem in so many things weaving its way through. Hashem was guiding. You were
Yeah.
making great choices, obviously. You were using your free will
Well,
towards the side of good, but
I was definitely trying to. I can't say I made all the right choices,
you made
but
some pretty bold choices, and in the face of that kind of peer pressure is very at that age is extremely courageous. Um, yeah. And would they call out to you from that house as you would walk by, like they would antagonize you?
oh, no, not antagonizing, but they because I was like the brother for years.
Right.
And and so they're like they see me, they see their blood. And so it's just like, hey, bro, what's good? Like how you doing, this and that. And they would expect like to hang out because that's what we did for years. We'd see each other, we'd hang out, we'd do stuff. Um, but no, I mean, there really wasn't negative. I think they were more just like disappointed, you
Mm,
know. But it's interesting because, and the reason why I had to just cut all that stuff out is because I was so vulnerable to my surroundings at the time that I would just let anything basically affect me. So I knew that if I'm trying to follow the right path and I'm hanging out with these dudes who are like all in, then I'm just gonna be compromised. I'm not gonna get really far. I'm just gonna be another cliche, person who does wrong but believes in God. And so, but the way I grew up and the individuals I always grew around with, and it really had an impact on me, is
mhm,
um they never half stepped. So they never like they're always fully committed. Whatever they did, they fully committed to like 100%. So that had a huge impact on me. And so I grew up with the mentality that like if you're gonna do something, then do it right and do it with all that you're able to. Like if the mission is to get something done, then do whatever needs be to get that done. And so when the whole situation popped off with God's like, "Hey, I'm here. You know what you gonna do?" Deep down, I knew that that was the right choice. Part of me really didn't want to because of how deep I was in the mix, and how fun and how many like things there are to do in the world. But deep down, I knew it's the right choice. And it's like, um, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really a no-brainer, you know. But most people would choose and do choose the temporary pleasures and cheap thrills of life.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, you're really an outlier when it comes to that. Takes a lot,
but
yeah, takes a lot of resolve, a lot of strength to actually go through with that kind of decision. And then what most impressed me, what you told me also, was that, you had gone through training with your grandfather. You were turning out entire kitchens, right? You knew how to do all
yeah,
kinds of construction, right? And you could have made it big with that, making money that way. And can you walk me through that whole process also?
yeah, for sure. So I'm fresh out of high school. I don't got a job at the time. I'm not really looking for a job because the entire the entire year of high school, I was basically like I was in the awareness of God. I knew I was like deep down the rabbit hole of conspiracies. Like I knew that this world and this uh this generation and everything was entirely blinded, and like there's something far greater going on. Um and it's funny because I was actually huge into conspiracies until one day it clicked, because every single conspiracy, when I got to the root of it, always led back to the Bible, the Jews, and the Torah, you know? So it's like,
That's really good.
it's like,
I'm gonna have to make a short account of that. That's really good.
um, yeah. So I mean, it's like, are you gonna continue to seek these rabbit holes and all these conspiracies, or are you gonna like seek after the root of all of it? And it's like, which is the Torah? It's the Jews, these magical people who are always involved with weird situations throughout history. Um, so that's what that was. So I graduated high school.
Wait, I need a
Um,
minute with that, Malachi. We just pause for 1 second. That was what you just said
yeah, for sure.
was amazing. It's so true because I'm a truther also. I've been down, and it always lands at the Jews.
Yeah.
That's such a great insight. Oh my God. Thank you for that. Okay, continue.
um, so fresh out of high school, um, it's when the whole COVID thing popped off. Um, and I just saw it like a blessing, because I really was like, there ain't nothing the world has to really offer, you know. And so I get to stay at home all day and I get to read. So that's like a win-win. So um it really made my family feel some type of way, because they would call it like I was in hibernation, because I was just like in my room all day for almost a year, just studying and just like taking notes and just involved with like the Torah, um
Mm.
like all day, like for about a year. Um and by doing so, that's actually when I ran into Rabenu, um which is a whole one other story on its own. But after a cool period of time, um, my family was like, "Hey, you gotta get a job. Like you're getting older. You gotta do something. Like you gotta go to school. You gotta get a job." I was for sure it's not going to school, so I was gonna get a job. I didn't know where to go though. I was looking around, and conveniently enough, uh my grandfather, who I was living with at the time, had zero employees. His last employee just left him. And mind you, he owns a company, right? And he's like, hey, in the meantime, like, just come work here and this and that, and we'll get the situation handled. So like, all right, whatever. We end up having pretty good chemistry and making a lot of money. And he's getting old, and he has like um my entire family's pretty skilled in just about all trades. And so a lot of that rubbed off on me. So by default, I was pretty well informed on basically how to do everything, like trade wise.
Hmm.
Um, and so we did a lot, and we made a lot of money. But the outcome, or his wish, and it's still kind of is, um, that his company would fall into my lap, right? It's like it would just be passed on, because I basically learned how to do just about everything. And I was cool with it, I'm like, shoot, we finna make money. But it's funny because again, I was presented with this huge decision between either being successful on this hand, or being closer with God. That's how I was presented again with this huge decision. And it's like, obviously, I'm like, I don't care about the world, like, obviously I'm gonna do what needs to be done to get right with God. So huge letdown in my family, huge letdown. They're completely devastated on that end, and they don't understand like the reason why.
Right.
But um yeah, I mean, obviously it was like trying to explain to them, because I basically left on a 2 week notice, because I had to come out here, and it was a time crucial thing, because a lot of stuff was going on out here, and I had to be up here at that time. And trying to explain that to your family, like, hey, I'm about to leave in 2 weeks, is it's a lot for them to take in. Um, but yeah, I mean,
What was
there's a
going
lot to
on? What
say.
was going on over there that it was crucial for you to go so quickly? Are you able to say that?
Uh, kinda, kinda. I mean, there was I really can't say too much on it. I think about some of it with
Okay.
but yeah, there was just a lot of stuff going on. Um, a lot of The best way to say it, I guess, is certain individuals came across this information and the importance of this information, and the one bringing down this information, and they saw the mission, and they saw the future and how this could impact the world. And by doing so, certain things, you know um yeah, it just can't talk about certain things on a public platform.
Right. They were like trying to derail the operation, and so the operation needed you to come immediately.
Well, no, not necessarily. It was actually kind of the opposite. um is Certain individuals saw the importance of this light in the future, and implementing this light into the future,
Mhm.
with the future technology, and in the new world. And it came to a point where everyone up here was calling me up like, hey bro, you got to get up here, because like we don't know how long we're going to be up here for,
Oh, okay, got
you
it.
know and so it's like, well, and they're trying to tell me because they can't say it over the phone, so they're trying to tell me without telling me. And I
That it
finally,
might pop off, that it's all might
right.
just, yeah, got it.
And so it's like me trying to tell this to my family, give them like minimum details because I can't speak on it. It's like it it really wasn't easy. But I was already determined. I
Mm.
was already like, that's what it was. But yeah,
So so you made that decision and you were there and you that was 2 years ago, correct? You've been there for 2 years?
I've been up here for about 2 years.
Yeah. And, just to like fill everybody in on, some of the history of like how you kind of earned your way there, like you were able to create two massive scrolls, Ilanot, in your home, right? That you showed me when I was there with you and saw them in person. And that you kind of were self-taught. You taught yourself the esoteric information off of Rabbeinu's playlist, one of his playlists, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call it self-taught. I was just a purist. Um,
Mm.
so when I saw that the light that YIRAH was bringing down, I saw that it was true.
Mm,
And again, we were kind of speaking on it last interview. It's like a person who finds a hard stone, right? And the stone is likened to a standard. And and this person is seeking the truth. They're seeking for what is real. And so every stone that they come across that point onward, they try it against that hard stone that they have, right? And if it doesn't hold its weight to that standard, or if it breaks to that standard, then it's not real because it cannot hold up. And when that standard is the Torah, it's easy to determine what things are false and what things are true. And so eventually, um, I saw that the real standard and the real light of Torah was with Rabbeinu. And so um, once I came across his channel, as I immediately became a purist. Like everything else is secondary. Everything else is like take with a grain of salt. This is the truth.
mm,
And so um, I basically binge watched his entire channel as someone watches TV.
mm.
You know, like when you're eating food, a lot of people like scroll on like social media. I was just like watching videos and
Was that during your 1 year hibernation in your room? Was that the same time or different?
yeah, it was kind of like after all of that. I mean,
Mm,
it was kind of towards the end of all that.
mm,
Um, yeah, it was like in the midst of that. But by doing so, um, and again, I was talking with Rabeno about this the other day that it's written, "Who brings a clean thing from an unclean thing?" And so I once heard someone say that when you come to God, or uh, when when you see the light of God and your life changes, it's not that you have to change everything about you and stop doing what you're doing. It's that you have to take those gifts and like what you're good at in life. You're not supposed to suppress that. You're supposed to direct that in the right direction. Um, and so
so beautiful.
I really don't like speaking about myself, and it makes me pretty uncomfortable speaking about my whole childhood and everything because I don't speak on it. But because you asked,
It's
and
important testimony. This is testimony you're giving.
um, so I'm a third generation artist, right? My dad and my grandfather were both skilled craftsmen. Um, and so I always grew up drawing, grew up doing art. Like that was my passion in my entire life. I was told, look, it's cool, you're good at it, but it's a hobby. Like,
Mm,
don't expect to get anywhere with art because like
mm,
the world we live in, like that's just like something you do in your free time. And so I was always told that, look, like studying the Bible, that's cool. Like having a relationship with God, that's cool. But you need to do something where you can make a living, you know? Um, and so I was always told all these things, especially when I started like to really find God, like all this stuff like grew all the more. Um, but it's not that you're supposed to dismiss the gifts that God gave you, but you're supposed to direct them in the right fashions. And so I understood that. And I forgot to mention that when I came to this light, it was a time when I was really uncomfortable with myself and the world and everything. And so I was basically breaking all boundaries and stepping out of everything that made me uncomfortable. Um, whatever it be, like whether it be like not caring what people think about you and what you like, how you present yourself or how you dress or how you talk or communicate with others. Like just not like having social anxiety, not caring about anything, right? It's like this is the light of God and everything else is secondary. And by doing so, there's a huge authority that you walk in that just causes you to not care about anything else on that level, Like you don't take things as serious. But by doing so, I, basically for about 2 years, I was stepping outside of everything that, like for example, I didn't grow up eating vegetables for whatever reason. And when I came to this, it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna eat vegetables. I'm gonna at least try every single food um, to develop a palate. Because uh, I'm not gonna live my life being restricted by fear. So by doing so, I tried everything. Someone would offer me something, I would eat it. Um, and so eventually, I saw the benefits of veggies, and I went vegan for 2 years. And uh, a product was that, or a result of that, was I also cut out all processed everything.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it was like a pure diet for about 2 years. And so it was like a real cleansing. Um, but by doing so, I kind of put all the art and everything on the back burner because it's like, all right, look, art is cool, you're good at art, but like like how is that gonna bring world peace? How's that gonna get the light into the world? I really didn't know at the time. So I
Yeah.
put all that on the back burner. Um, until I ran into Urbano and he's an artist. And I'm like, wow, okay, well, I don't know anything. So he started bringing down or he was bringing down all this light and I started seeing the greatness of it. And I had a sketch pad in my house and the sketch pad was about 2 feet tall by a foot and a half. It's a pretty big sketch pad. And I used it to draw in and stuff, whatnot. And one day, you know, I'm watching all these videos like, hey, I want to draw the crown jewel.
Mm.
So I draw the crown jewel and there's like about half a foot left underneath the paper. I'm like, oh, well, I want to draw the Simpson too. And so I draw the Simpson, and it's like, well, I want to draw the heart spark, you know. And so eventually, I have like two papers taped together. It's about 4 feet long at this time, and I was like, man, might as well just write out a whole Elon note. Um, so did that, and I think that's what caught uh Revy's attention. Um, and it's like, oh snap, you know. Um, and so yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say. Um, but yeah,
Those details of the story, like I knew a lot of those stories without the details. The details are amazing. Thank you for sharing all that with us. I didn't understand the evolution of you making the Elon. I love that. I love how that came through you and how you use your gift is what really landed you in your highest destiny. It's amazing to see that. I mean, I'm sure there's an even greater destiny as you get older, still coming, but wow, did that turn convention on its head? People who tell you you'll never get anywhere with your natural inclination
yeah,
towards,
no,
art is that they're just part of
yeah,
that's matrix talk.
yeah. No, it's funny because um, my first time out here, I was chilling in yours and Rose's room,
Hmm.
and they were basically telling me like, hey, like you're welcome to stay out here if you'd like. We'll provide free housing and we'll provide all your base needs. And we just want you to like to serve Hashem and to produce his art, and to just like, you know, and at that time I was blown away. I was absolutely staggered because
Mm,
my entire life to that point I was told that that isn't possible. It's not possible to serve God and be stable, and it's not possible to enjoy making art and being stable. And this is exactly what they're asking me to do. Um, so immediately found myself at home, and um, yeah, it's
well,
been
for
moving up
me,
from
just
there.
hearing the story that you just presented, I understand that when a person makes right choices, brave choices towards God, you just at those crucial forks in the road, you kept making the right choice and the right choice, and then it leads you. It opens up a door where God is like, here's an opportunity. You chose me, and now I'm gonna choose you. Hashem chooses you right back, and presents the fruit of your choices. So that's amazing for me to hear all that. Thank you for presenting it so clearly, Malachi. I wanted to get into if unless there's something else you want to say, I wanted to find out. I know last night the Schumann resonance. I don't know if you've seen the charts, or do you know what the Schumann resonance is? Okay, so it
Yeah.
was spiked last night, like at the highest, touching the top of the chart. I never saw it that high. And like a lot of people had trouble sleeping last night. There was a lot of energy on the planet, a lot of agitation. And we saw a lot of that come up on social media, where a lot of the trolls came out of the woodwork. And I just wanted to know, like, how you guys are faring with all that, and how you are dealing, and how Rabinu and Rose are dealing with it. If you can give us some insight, what's going on over there?
So that's a good question. Um, and oftentimes, you'll hear people in the close circle say, if I don't laugh, then I'll weep.
Mm,
Because the situation is so tragic, and people are so far lost, and they what they do, they don't even know what they're doing, and it's like the damages are almost like irreparable,
mm,
and it's absolutely insane. And it's so insane that all you could really do is laugh at it. Hence why laughing is a tikkun for Gevurah.
mm-hmm. Ooh,
And
that's a good line. That's why laughing is a tikkun for Gabura. Oh, that's so
no,
good.
absolutely, absolutely. And so, if you don't laugh, then you'll weep, you know. Um, and so a lot of the times when tragic stuff like that happens, um, it's written that I shall mock you from the heavens, you know. And so ultimately, that's one of the best ways to deal with such situations, especially when you see that it's riddled with fallacies and errors,
Mhm.
and the whole situation's just messed up, like it's truly comical, you know. Um,
Yeah. And I
like
think
this,
it's a hallmark of spiritual maturity also, not to be triggered, not to get sucked in, not to engage with it. It's like
yeah,
I've gone, through it also, and the maturity I've come to over the past 4 years is like you said, is like just observe it with humor, and don't get into the back and forth. Never, never, do not engage.
no, for sure. I mean, that's really what the individual who's projecting that information wants. They want interaction. Um, yeah, yeah. It's actually funny, um, because as of recently, people are trying to make like exposing videos on this and that, and they're absolutely ridiculous. They have no basis to their claims. Um, yeah, no, it's
Oh, I
comical.
saw they're like they're calling him by his birth name. I'm like, and that's the
Yeah,
meanest thing they could come up with. Like,
yeah. It's like, oh no, like the Torah didn't say, like didn't declare these things.
right.
Like I like, for example, um, um, yeah, yeah. There's people hear his birth name Anthony, and they don't associate it with a Hebrew name. They think it's a secular name or a goyim name. Um, but I mean that's probably the farthest thing from the truth. These same people are the people who divide reality. They divide Hashem from a Shekinah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, yeah, and on the real level, I mean, do the sages not say that everything is found in the Torah? Hashem looked into the Torah and created. So everything is found inside the Torah. The sages in times past, somebody would have a question. How do I do this? My wife is doing this. How do I address this situation? The Chazal would look into the Torah and see the permutations of a certain verse, and it would tell them how to address the situation. And people think that's crazy. But last year, on I think it was on Shavuos, um, YIRAH hit us all up, and it was like, "Hey, I'm gonna share something with you guys." I'm like, "All right, cool." He showed us this special document that he says he ascended into the heavenly yeshivas, and Hashem showed him certain sarufs of certain verses or certain permutations. And um, in everything that I've said on this interview and everything that I will say, it's not from a place of ego, but I know that you're curious, the viewers are curious, and so I try to say this as humbly as I could.